You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
He's got it! Oh, baby!
Every week, Travis Currah.
That's Grey Cup me, which is a different person.
And Brazilian Ty.
Hunters are people too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Oh, nearly intercepted, it is! And it's over!
Ready, set, hunt!
Week 2 of the CFL season is in the books. I'm Travis Currah here with Brazilian Ty, the Two and Out CFL podcasters. Austin on the YouTube channel writes, "It looks like Brazilian Ty got a Brazilian on his face." I do like that. A little bit of throwback to the OG days, how you got your name.
Yeah, that was an experience.
Can we believe that's coming up on 8 years?
That's nuts. And Winnipeg has probably gotten worse.
The team got better.
Not the team, just city in general.
How was your weekend? I understand Rib Fest was in the border city. I had my own Rib Fest here at home today, and I'm still digesting. So good.
Yeah, we ended up going to Camrose on Saturday for golf because the Lloyd course had a tournament.
Okay.
Epic comeback on the back nine to win 3-2, and then end up winning the whole Nassau bet as well. And then we got back home and Buddy had family in town, and so we all went to Ribfest with 5 kids.
Man, I can't believe you agreed to that.
I was hungry. I paid $45.
People will
paid
do
$45
anything.
for pulled pork, ribs, a chicken thigh, and a sausage, and it was nothing that I couldn't have just made at home.
Yeah.
It was so underwhelming. But I did drink like 30 beer.
So. Oh, of course you did.
I was thirsty after that because it was so salty.
Week 2 started Thursday night with the Calgary Stampeders beating the Ottawa RedBlacks 26-15. An ugly game. But here's a question coming out of this game. Even if Jeremiah Masoli is not ready for the next game, is Nick Arbuckle going to start?
What's their options? But you can't keep trotting him out there either.
I'd say just give it to Tyree Adams and see what happens.
Yeah. At this point, Nick Arbuckle is not a quarterback in this year. Like, he's not good enough. Sorry, but it's just been year after year after year of, he goes to Edmonton, or he starts as a backup, would come in when they needed him. But I mean, that Calgary system was so good that he was able to just manage the pieces properly. But now, like, he can't. I don't know if he can't or what it is, but it's been awful since he's been a starter.
Well, it does appear that they're having problems getting Jalen Acklin going. They moved him to slot back instead of wide receiver last year, where he had a career year, and he's been off. There just really isn't. It appears like the receivers aren't doing what you would expect of them, and they don't have a running game really. They handed the ball off 5 times in this game.
It's so bad.
You're not going to win.
No.
If you're like, look at Calgary, 19 carries for Dedrick Mills, 102 yards and a touchdown. That's going to wear down any defense. And I think credit needs to go to both defenses in this game. But look at Ottawa, just opportunities missed. The very first drive of the game, it's 1st and goal from the 4. 3 consecutive passes to Nate Bahar. They're all incomplete. If it doesn't work the first time and it doesn't work the second time, it's kind of like when Edmonton tried to run the ball against Saskatchewan on the one.
Yeah, I mean, when you are down there, you have to come away with points. I completely agreed with them going for it, especially early. They've had trouble getting into the end zone. You don't want to be settling for field goals against Calgary, but going to the well three. Like it's just it didn't work. And you're not doing anything special to get Napar away from anybody. It wasn't great. I like the aggressiveness because they needed to, I think. But yeah, it just seemed inept by the third time. It's like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah. Like, it's like Calgary saw it coming from a mile away.
Mm-hmm. It's like Tin Cup.
Yeah.
Hitting the ball in the water on 18.
Now,
so you're down to your last one.
The ball ends up becoming a bit of a hot potato as the first half continued. Devontae Dedmon, he does get hit pretty hard, fumbles the ball. It is Calgary ball, and they got a pretty short field. It ended up only being, a 21-yard drive, and Calgary gets on the board with a major first. Ottawa did have the punt single, but they are up 8-1 after Trey Odoms-Dukes makes a great catch on the 2-point conversion. I think early in the season, we've seen a few receivers maybe show that they're poised for a breakout. Odoms-Dukes might be one of them, and we're fresh off the Toronto-Hamilton game. Coxie might be another one of those guys.
And Friday night, you want to talk about breakouts.
Yeah, exactly. I would say 2 Rough Rider receivers in a losing effort. So I think we're going to start learning here some new names when it comes to receiving talent in the Canadian Football League.
It's also early.
Yeah, it
where
is.
There's not a lot of film yet.
Yeah.
So I think defenses will adjust. But I mean, if these guys, like, momentum is a thing, you can keep carrying it. And if all they got to do is just be consistent, and they'll easily put up 1,300 yards.
Exactly. And then the next score ended up going to Calgary. Surprise, off of a fumble. Brandon Dozier recovers the fumble, pops out of Tyree Adams' hands, and takes it to the house. And then it just continues to be like, and then Ottawa had an opportunity here when they forced a fumble from Calgary, right?
They had the ball on the 11-yard line, and they walk away with a field goal.
Well, that's it. So there's 2 drives early in the game. One ends on a turnover on downs, and then one ends in a field goal. I think at that point, they probably should have went for it there, too.
I mean, it's just... You cannot pass up opportunities in any league, any sport, to score. It always comes back to bite you in the butt. I don't think Ottawa had a chance to win this game. I mean, the score is flattering, but there was some garbage time stuff. But especially a team like Calgary that just seems to capitalize on errors.
That's it.
If you're not putting points up when you have the chance, or you're only coming away with 3s from 11 yards out, you deserve to lose that football game. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I just think it's just demoralizing for the fan base.
Oh.
And I can't blame them. It's 5 consecutive seasons. I think they said 5 different quarterbacks on week 1.
Have you seen what the RedBlacks record is since they've come into the league?
What is it?
Their winning percentage is like 31.
And it's incredible that they have
and that includes a 12-win season.
3 Grey Cup appearances.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how does that work?
It's wild.
So then, like, later in the half,
Ottawa sports is a disaster.
Yeah,
Alex Brinket wants out. Like, oh yeah,
it's 15-4. The RedBlacks pick off Jake Mayer, so they were okay. Opportunity, Ottawa. Here we go. Let's see what can happen. Pretty good field position. Very next play.
Then you remember who your quarterback is.
Very next play, Nick Arbuckle is picked off by Micah Awe, and it's not it was right to him.
Yeah, it was a completed pass to Micah Awe is what it was.
And I think kudos to Micah Awe. He had 12 tackles in week 1, and in this game, he's balling out, and this is what Calgary does. Maybe it is the system funneling the ball carrier to that position on the defense, but he's capitalizing and he's playing good football early.
And it also, that you want to talk about running the football and wearing down teams. Getting hit by Micah Awe repeatedly will wear a guy out to the point where you don't want to run to the middle of the field anymore. And you start running outside and you're running 30, 40 yards to gain 3.
There was a cool video, I think Sarah Ann said, who shared it on Twitter. She talked to Micah Awe and about his path to the CFL, and it was a mistake while he played in the NFL in a preseason game. He was supposed to cover the running back, but he didn't, and he went and hit the quarterback, which was Carson Wentz, knocked him out of the game. That hit got him noticed by the CFL. Into the game after Wentz gets hurt is McLeod Bethel Thompson. So like that's how close these guys are on the bubble on the NFL, and how they can make it up here in Canada. Just those little things that can make a difference.
One
in
missed
a career.
Assignment.
Exactly.
But still knocked a quarterback out of the game.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You didn't do what you're supposed to do. Without rules, this is chaos.
Yeah. The guy can hit. He's an impressive player, and he looks poised, if he can stay healthy, to have a big year for the Calgary Stampeders this year. Now, towards the end of the first half there, Devontae Dedmon's out of the game. So if you had Brandon Dandridge being the one to take a kick to the house for the Ottawa RedBlacks on your bingo card, you're probably making some big money, Ty.
Those odds would probably be better, or well, I guess worse. No, they'd be better than Wyndham Clark winning the U.S. Open today.
Exactly.
Don't get me started. Dandridge gets that return touchdown. You know what the geniuses at CFL Fantasy Football have done? That touchdown is Devontae Dedmon's.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I think now's the time we got to talk to stats, not necessarily just now. I truly believe that the fantasy game needed a change. I think the last 2 years it was just there for them. Like the formula and the salaries didn't make sense. Your salary cap's 40 grand and your top players are 14. It just doesn't make sense. Now they've upped it to 70, and now you're actually able to build a roster with a top tier quarterback. But
and you have to pick a defense and play properly,
which is good.
Yeah. But
now it actually just feels like an incomplete product. I can't click on my buddy's username and look at his lineup. The way it updates and the way the CFL, and that's probably why the fantasy game's struggling, is because the CFL doesn't have its stats infrastructure ready to go. Maybe they did need a change, but the fact that we're here after week 2 and it's not ready.
Why were we rolling this out a week before the season?
That's the part that doesn't make sense to me.
If it wasn't ready, keep working on it, and we'll do what we've done the last 10 years with the stats that we had, where I could go back and look at previous years, games started, targets. I could find anything from, and I could go by game on a player. Right now, I can't do anything. Like, it's so frustrating trying to find stuff.
It's a critical time early in the season. I know the DraftKings partnership with the CFL kind of seems to have gone down a little bit, but the betting has been a priority. But when you can't see anything.
Well, the problem with the betting is that the odds are so bad.
They are.
Like, it's so tough to do anything.
Yeah, there's never any sort of odds that makes it worthwhile putting down cash on it, which is I guess the way it is when there's 4 games a week. But it's been a kind of a frustrating start to the season, because there have been explosive plays, there has been quality football, and I think the season has started off more on fire than we've seen over the past few years. And
so, like, when we're watching a game, or when I'm watching a game at home, I put on my laptop the play-by-play that they update.
Yeah.
It's so janky. Like, I'll lose an entire quarter because they just haven't updated it.
Wow.
Happened last week.
Yeah,
So then I gotta wait for the stat. I gotta wait for the stat sheets to come out. Then I gotta go through it and make sure everything kind of lines up with what I've got. And then the stat sheets don't match the fantasy stats.
Yeah,
I have no idea what's going on. It's embarrassing. This is why people make fun of this league.
I think it's a skeleton crew since COVID. I don't think those people have come back. And while rolling out this new system, while shutting down the old system, not ideal here.
But hey, let's just talk about expansion.
Yeah.
And not what the problems are.
Tyree Adams does start the second half for the RedBlacks. Look, he had about the same success, I'll admit, in this one as Nick Arbuckle. He actually had worse completion percentage. Some of these were just drop balls. Some of these were balls the receiver should have had. He goes 9 of 17 for 129 yards with an interception. And then in the second half, maybe Ottawa's defense was starting to wear out, but they do have a fierce front. They do give teams trouble. But Calgary's offense started to sort of find a rhythm in the second half. And in the third quarter, they had a drive that was 88 yards that took almost 6 minutes off the clock, 21-12 for Calgary. Nice rush reference as well at that point. That was before, of course, the extra point to make it 22-12. But I had to do the 21-12.
Yeah, I'm like, what stat sheet are you?
But when an offense can put together a drive like that and your offense isn't succeeding on the other side, I think part of it is probably just the mindset with the fans and even the team. Just, here we go again.
Defeated. Just mentally exhausted, defeated, just done.
Yep.
Like, Jeremiah Masoli was supposed to come in there and be the savior. Didn't start well last year. Then he gets hurt, and it's just snowballed into what we have now.
Yeah.
And it sucks because, nobody has any bad words to say about Bob Dice and Kahari and the coaching crew they have there.
Yep.
But if this season is another 3-win season, like, I don't want to say you got to clean house, but something is wrong. And the coaches are going to be the ones to take the fall for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like front office and stuff, like it's never the player's fault. Well, it is, but guys have contracts, and so you can't just get rid of them.
Calgary goes to Ottawa, takes care of business. They leave with an 11-point win. Ottawa is demoralized again, 0-2 to start the season. Calgary 1-1 against a 1-1 Rough Rider team coming up this weekend, which that game is suddenly really interesting.
Real important. Can we talk about Paradis's Jamie Borman impression?
He's been feisty to start the year. He's been in a few
I'd be
tussles.
feisty too if I missed my first 3 field goal attempts. I'd be pissed off.
Yeah, I think that 500 career field goals might be staring him in the face, hey?
Mm-hmm.
He needed 3? Well, he only needs 2 now, I think. He went 1 for 1 in this one. But Jake Mayer, 22 of 33, 332 yards and an interception. It was an okay game. You want to see a major from him. He did have a rushing major that he added. Dedrick Mills, he's maybe going to be my fantasy darling for the next little while here. If Kadeem Carey's not going to be playing, Mills is probably going to be a must-have in your lineup.
Another thing, the blitz picks.
Oh, Kadeem Carey was
have over under 75.5 yards this week. It's like he's on this, just came into this, so I'm picking under.
Yeah.
Like, come on, you guys, be better.
Malik Henry, 7 catches, 108 yards. Reggie Bagleton, 8 catches, 141 yards. As for Ottawa, Quan Bray, their leading receiver, 4 catches, 95 yards. And the rushing, Demontre Tuggle, 4 carries, 20 yards. Wow.
When your quarterback position is putting up 6.4 fantasy points in a game, you're not going to win that football game.
Not happening right now for the Ottawa RedBlacks. And at some point, even if Masoli comes back, you're still worried about what the rest of the season looks like at this point. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers go into Regina and they leave with a 45-27 win. It has been a while since I've seen a Rough Rider team lose by 18, but still the overall feeling was actually kind of positive. Like,
yeah, that's weird.
It is so weird to say. And yeah, they did lose by 2 scores. The Riders threw for over 400 yards in this one. The offense really, I think, impressed and surprised a lot of people in Saskatchewan and maybe around the league. There were 2 100-yard receivers, and that's not even the receiver that had 3 touchdown receptions for the Riders.
Yeah.
So the offensive performance, I think Trevor Harris played about as well as he could have. 29 of 41, 3 touchdown passes. Now, there were some moments in the second half where there's some missed throws. The timing was off a little bit, but he didn't turn the ball over. That's a positive. But Tevin Jones gets onto the roster as Darrell Walker is on the 6-game injured list for the Riders. He has 14 targets, 9 catches, 121 yards. Sean Bain, 6 catches, 6 targets for 125 yards. And Samuel Emelis, the first-round pick for the Riders last year, 7 catches, 8 targets, 77 yards, and a hat trick, 3 touchdowns. Talk about the Rough Rider offense, Ty. That's a pretty good performance.
Trevor Harris is the all-time leader in completion percentage, if I'm not mistaken, in the CFL.
He's a pretty accurate quarterback, and he's a good passer.
He's a good passer. That offensive line, a little bit reworked from what they had last season. It's just a veteran quarterback who knows this league, who's been around, given some weapons, and making guys around him better. There's nothing wrong with this offense if this is what they can do.
Yeah.
You're putting up 27 points on Winnipeg. Like that, Winnipeg, yeah, we talk about how good their defense is, but they have the reigning MOP. They've won 2 of the last 3 Grey Cups. Like, their offense puts up points. It's a big ask for your defense to stop that team right now. Yeah, they gave up 45, but the offense didn't give you much to worry about. And moving the ball, short yardage, they were good. Big breakout plays to get out of their own end, to set up stuff down the field. Like, it was fun to watch. And it's not something we're used to because Fajardo was always scatterbrained and happy feet and just didn't seem ready.
No, I'm not a coach. I mean, I don't know how you beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers consistently.
You have to cheat.
It's really, I kind of wonder if what you have to do is slow down the pace a little bit. Saskatchewan didn't do that. They only gave Jamal Morrow the ball 6 times for 25 yards. So if you want to point out a weakness, that's probably it. If you want to get into the quick strike shootout game with Winnipeg, it's clear you're not going to win.
No.
And that's it. Zach Collaros, he only had 293 yards, but 74% completion.
Yeah.
He balled out too.
This offense for Winnipeg, like you said, trying to, like, maybe the way to beat them is to slow the pace of the game down. But Winnipeg can do that too. They can hold on to the ball.
That's it.
Run the clock and just beat you down. And then your offense isn't going to be out there as much. Like, it's like the Islanders in '83. You got to build a team that you got to win one round that's going to be skill. You got to win one round that's going to be toughness. One that's going to be system, and then one's kind of a crapshoot. You got to be able to play every different type of way, and Winnipeg can do that. So you want to try to slow the pace down. I think you play into their hand.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want to get into a shootout with them. It plays into like there's nothing that this offense is doing poorly right now. I mean, Oliver only had 42 yards, but it's kind of a one-off.
And they don't even have Kenny Lawler available right now.
Mm-hmm.
So Dembski shown, even Wolodarski's getting into the action early. He's got scores to his name.
And they get really good field position to start drives with Janarian Grant back there.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get to Janarian Grant here. It's almost like a good boxer. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, it's the counter punch.
Mm-hmm.
You take the lead on them, and then they hit you right back. Like it was in the third quarter. The Riders had a good start there. Harris goes 6 for 6, 79 yards. He hits Samuel Emelis for that third touchdown. They take the lead. Winnipeg gets the ball and comes right back. 8 plays, 67 yards, and they punch the ball in with Drew Brown. It's just once you get a leg up, it's how Winnipeg answers.
Mm-hmm.
It's how if it's 2nd and 28, they're never out of a series.
No.
So
well, and then so they get that Drew Brown touchdown. The Riders' next drive, the defense steps up, forces a 2-0, and that's the Grant return.
Yeah.
Like it just kept snowballing.
Is that I've seen rumblings of this, people calling that one of the best, maybe the best return touchdown in CFL history. Now
I want to say Brandon Banks in 2014, but it didn't count.
Well, it is a
because that one was really good too.
And maybe it's the timing. Like we've got
it's an answer after 2-0 after you scored. He reverses field like he broke tackles. Like it wasn't just pure speed. Like there was a lot of skill there.
Is it now? My history might be off here, but is it the 87 Grey Cup? Gizmo Williams takes the missed field goal to the house. Like the fact that it's in a Grey Cup, like that is, and that's why Brandon Banks, like if it counted, would be up there.
And that you didn't even need to make that block. He was already past them.
Yeah, that's the worst frustrating thing. Yeah, for him.
Yeah,
and the Ticats, obviously. Now, it did seem like there were some backups. Like from a certain perspective, you look at that play and you say that's some horrible tackling. Like
which is what we're used to on special teams in this league for the most part.
It makes exciting football, but man, everybody on that special teams had a shot at him and couldn't take him down.
Arm tackles are not going to work. You have to drive through the guy's body. Like and no, guys were out of their lanes. It was just a snowball of errors. It was awful.
And I guess that's one thing about this game that should be said. There was a flag thrown. The command center, and there was, I thought, a pretty good explanation where they came out and said they looked at every possible block and they picked up the flag, but that wasn't the only time a flag was picked up. There was a pass interference earlier in the game where the command center came in and corrected the call. I think it's good for the game if they're going to come in and correct these calls. And sometimes I see a ticky-tack illegal block that doesn't affect the return at all. And I'm like, do we really have to take back 100-yard play to wipe that off? I think it's good for the game that that these plays stand. And the fact that they went through it and corrected it, that's a good thing, even if it does hold things up a little bit.
Yeah, I do like that. I just don't want it to be to the point where it's, every time. But I mean, it's a scoring play, so it's reviewable anyways. So it's it wouldn't be a scoring play with the flag.
Right. They threw it beforehand.
Right.
But they went and reviewed it anyway.
Yeah, they went and reviewed it anyway. But I just don't want it to be to the point where we're getting 6 or 7 of those.
That makes sense.
Or we don't want an Angel Hernandez situation.
Yeah. So I mean, it's good that a play like that lands. And there was I think a high hit on Trevor Harris that ended up getting changed after the fact.
He slid late.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that I had no problem with that flag getting picked up. The guy was already committed to the tackle before he started sliding. He didn't slide very well.
No.
Or anything, and it was late. So yeah, that had to be picked up.
So I guess that's the thing. When you give up a special teams touchdown, those are just the daggers. I know that Calgary overcame it, but Ottawa's offense didn't do anything. When Winnipeg's defense is flying and you can add a special teams touchdown, that's tough to overcome for any team. And there was a decision that Craig Dickinson made in the fourth quarter. Saskatchewan down 2 touchdowns. He elects to kick the field goal instead of going for it afterwards. Craig Dickinson did say in hindsight, probably should have went for it at that point. And I think when Winnipeg's up on you and you started to fall back a little bit, you kind of have to keep pace with 6s instead of 3s.
I mean, a Craig Dickinson coaching blunder is not a surprise to the people in Regina. I don't. Yeah, if they don't make the playoffs this year, I think he's gone.
Well, and all of a sudden,
he's been getting out coached.
Oh, he has, and I think his brother and Mike O'Shea, they make better decisions on a consistent basis. And that's part of the reason why those two teams are near the tops of their divisions all the time and on a consistent basis. Now, with they get their 8th choice on offensive coordinator, they do get Trevor Harris, but with the improved offense, I feel like there's been some new life or some new hope for the team, which is kind of a different feeling than I think many had a few weeks ago. I think a loss to Winnipeg was not a surprise, but the way it happened maybe is a surprise a little bit.
Well, the last couple of years, the offense seemed inept. Like after they lost to Winnipeg in 2019 off the goalpost. Yeah. It kind of just started to go downhill from there. And yet the injuries to Cody Fajardo didn't help that. And the O-line being a saloon swinging door didn't help either. But now it just seems like every time they have the ball, there is a chance. It could be a 2-play, 90-yard drive where it's a big catch and run because they have the guys that can do that, or they can beat you down and they got the guys that you can play that short game at 7-8 yards a play and get down the field. But there is a feeling there that every time the offense has the ball, they can score, which they haven't had in 2 years.
Yeah. Dalton Schoen, he was the leading receiver for the Bombers, 8 catches, 12 targets, 145 yards and a touchdown. Drew Wolodarski had 5 for 74 and a touchdown. Nick Dembski, 5 for 56 there for him. And this Bomber team, it just doesn't seem like they have to
try very hard.
It does feel effortless, man.
And the continuity on that roster, Dembski, Wolodarski, Dalton Schoen was new last year, but he's back. Pilaros, the O-line, like everybody, like they know that playbook inside and out. They know where they need to be on every play. They're not looking like Malik Henry was last week, where he looked lost for an entire quarter.
Yeah.
These guys, it's like we talked about how Calgary's plug and play. Winnipeg is feeling the same because all you got to do is, if you know your position and you know your play calls, they just find ways to get everybody the ball.
This is an amazing stat.
And two, like they run the same shit week in and week out, and nobody's stopping it.
Yeah. So why change it? I think this is an amazing stat. 70% of the second down plays, Winnipeg converted for first downs. So second downs of over 7 yards to go. Winnipeg converted 75% of those for first downs.
That's so demoralizing to a defense.
Absolutely. Saskatchewan, they converted 46% of those. So when Winnipeg, 3/4 of the time, second and long, and they're getting a first down, it's like where they're comfortable to be playing from.
Yeah, and they have the package for that, and they've run it so much and so many times. It's automatic. It feels like.
Yep. Wow.
And I mean, O'Shea and Buck Pierce, they need 7 yards. That ball's not going 2 usually. It's going to go 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get it. Well, and the Riders did run a crossing route on a second and long, a short crossing route, and they got it. Well, that's what a crossing route is designed to do, is to separate the defense or get separation from the defense so you can get a run after catch, and it worked. It's those hook routes and the stops that are 2 yards short and the defender's right behind you. Well, you're not going anywhere.
The Bombers have scored over 40 in their first 2 games of the season. They've scored 40 more points than the next closest team through 2 games.
Yeah, I think we get a rematch.
But isn't this different from when the Bombers, they won their first Grey Cup? It wasn't about the offense.
No.
It was about
it was how are they winning games with this offense? Because Zach Carlos was an inch away from retirement.
Yeah. And now it's kind of the defense just has to make a few stops and that's it.
Yeah.
Speaking of defense, or maybe it's inept offense.
BC's defense had nothing to do with that win on Saturday.
Well, okay, so they shut out Edmonton 22-0. How rare is it a shutout? It's the 3rd in franchise history for the BC Lions. They haven't done it since the late 70s. Edmonton hasn't been shut out since the 70s.
Back when they were real, real bad.
Yeah, exactly. So this is credit to Edmonton's defense, actually, for holding BC to field goals for most of the game.
Yeah. Do you have any idea how hard this game was to watch this morning on PBR?
Oh, I can imagine.
It was a struggle.
I can imagine. I mean, LL Cool J starts it off, and the BC Lions, they actually couldn't really get a rhythm going in offense. Edmonton was giving them a little bit of trouble when they rush 3 and there's 9 guys in pass coverage versus 5 receivers. I feel like, and that's been part of the thing with the CFL lately. A lot of the drop 9 versus 5 receivers, just do the math. I realize there's a lot of field and a lot of receivers, but where there's 2
you can double
defenders,
3 guys.
Yeah. So of course it's going to be hard on a quarterback. Like, what's going on here? So I don't know. I think you probably have to combat that by running it at them a little bit to make them keep them honest and keep them at the line. But that's what Chris Jones was doing. And I think he threw Vernon Adams off a few times and was able to limit to the Lions the field goals for most of the game. But the Elks offense really did nothing. Taylor Cornelius, 98 yards passing, Ty.
Yeah, that's a dog's breakfast. That's awful. First throw of the game is an interception. Gets called back, but still.
Edmonton was trying to give the game to BC. That interception calls back.
I feel sorry for Andrew flying all the way out there and having to watch that live.
Yeah. And then the same drive, Kyle Loxley fumbles it, but it's ruled that forward progress was stopped. So BC thought they had started.
Edmonton's trying to give BC the game. Yeah. The league is trying to keep Edmonton in it.
Man, and then Edmonton picks off Vernon Adams. Ed Gainey ends up fumbling that. BC gets the ball back and a fresh set of down. Yeah, in the process. So, like,
And then after that, Kevin Brown fumbles.
yeah,
Like Chris Jones was not happy going into the half.
yeah, he was not happy at all.
You don't see him smile much.
Yeah,
But
it was 9-0 Lions at the half, which I think maybe that should have been considered like an all right road half for the Elks, probably as good as they could have hoped.
But like, you got lucky you didn't have 4 turnovers.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been a runaway for the Lions in a hurry. And I know it's not 59-14 like last year, but when you get shut out in the Canadian Football League, a lot went wrong.
Also, BC kicked 2 field goals in a minute because the Elks offense was so bad.
Now, there's a lot of talent on the offense.
Mm-hmm.
There's no denying that.
There is a certain position that doesn't contribute a lot right now on the offense. I think we all know what position that is, because the receivers that they have should be pretty easy to get them the ball.
Taylor Cornelius had a pretty nice efficiency rating, though, 69.9.
Yeah, okay, well, maybe he's in the MOP conversation.
Now, BC's defensive line was all over him. Now, is it the offensive line and Cornelius? One or the... It probably is a combination, but...
Probably a combination.
It does seem like there's some struggles on the O-line for Edmonton, too.
Mm-hmm. And the young kid, like, you know, you want him to have time and be comfortable back there, but it's just not happening right now, and it's not helping. Like we saw what happened with Fajardo with a bad offensive line. Edmonton's going through it right now, but they got to figure it out. And then after the game, Chris Jones comes out and says, "No, we have our quarterback." So there's a vote of confidence. There's your kiss of death. Like,
yeah, that's the Godfather.
Yeah.
How long's that leash?
That's the thing. Like, if they go 3-15 this year, is Jones still there?
I think Jones is there now.
But then, what do you do with the quarterback position? Because who do you go try to get?
No, this was
they've already got to be thinking about trades. They have to be already.
Here's the thing with Chris Jones. Towards the end of his tenure in Saskatchewan, there was not good quarterbacking there. Now, the beginning of his tenure in Edmonton, he kind of inherited a little guy called Michael Riley, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're back into those issues, I think, that he had in Saskatchewan with the poor quarterback play. Are they going to be able to... Is the guy on the roster that's going to help them? Here's the thing. We saw what Toronto looked like against Hamilton. They're coming to town.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not an easy assignment for Taylor Cornelius.
Mm-mm.
So...
They made Bo Levi Mitchell look real bad.
Is this going to be Trey Ford's team? So Edmonton does have Toronto, and then June 30th, they're in Ottawa. So something's got to give. Or is it the tie?
Yeah, like something has to happen. Like, you would think that that's a free space, but the way that Edmonton's played these first 2 weeks, it's not a free space on the bingo card.
That might be a 6-3 game at this point. Both defenses are pretty good, and they'll be given...
What a long weekend game that'll be.
Friday Night Football, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Now, for BC... They did what they had to do. Vernon Adams, 25 of 35, 312 yards, the interception and the touchdown. And the touchdown comes in the second half. Much like Calgary, they come out after the break and then they look better. Because, let's face it, in the fourth quarter, it kind of looked like BC was just trying to kill the clock, and
they had the ball for over 12 minutes.
And Edmonton, it
they had
honestly
the ball
looked
twice.
like maybe they were exhausted, but it kind of looked like they didn't care.
And that's bad in week 2.
At least
that's bad at any time. But if you're picking like if you can see body language and you think it doesn't look very good, and it's early, that's not a good sign.
Yeah,
if we noticed it and you noticed it, Chris Jones definitely noticed it.
Yep. To me, they looked like sort of like Ottawa, where it was just, here we go again.
Going through the motions.
That's what it looked like to me.
It's like the Oilers.
Hey, well, now they're a playoff team, right? So
yeah, so are the Leafs, who won the same amount of rounds.
In the second half, BC had a scoring drive, 5 plays, 62 yards. That made it 18-0. Dom Rhymes getting the touchdown there. And then, like you said, the fourth quarter, BC had a 14-play, 61-yard drive that ate half the quarter. Then they had a 10-play, 74-yard that ate over 4 minutes. That was the end of the game. They probably could have had it for another, if the field was...
I think Edmonton only got the ball twice in that fourth quarter.
Yeah. And look, we know the rules. That if they would have been able to get the ball, they could have made it interesting at least.
Mm-hmm.
But...
Or at least save some face.
Yeah. When the offense is doing nothing, and then the defense just has no more fight left, that's just what happens. The Elks had 146 yards in net offense, while the Lions had 419.
My God.
Second down conversion rate for the Elks, 29%.
That is awful.
The Elks now have the reigning Grey Cup champs in the Toronto Argonauts to deal with. It's not going to be an easy assignment, but Ty, the Thursday nighter, we have to look forward to because it's BC, Winnipeg. What are we going to get at IG Field? A pretty good game. That's what I would say. It will be a fun one. Those reigning Grey Cup champs lifted their banner. I thought it was pretty cool. They had the balloon there to raise the banner before the game. The Argos.
I think it's great that there's so many Hamilton fans there, and they all got replica rings too.
32-14, the final score. The Argos stomp the Ticats. Chad Kelly making his second career start. And now let's face it, the Ticats aided that first touchdown drive from the Toronto
23
Argonauts.
yards in penalties.
Yep.
Like, you don't need a belly-to-back suplex.
No. When you're helping a guy along, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. There was a suplex and there was a pass interference, I think, on that drive.
Roughing the passer.
Oh, yeah, the roughing the passer. So Toronto Argonauts get on the board first with that single, and then they get the touchdown on the Chad Kelly rush. He kind of made Jagarrett Davis turned him inside out on that touchdown run. It was a pretty impressive one. But then in the process, I think, like I mentioned earlier, DeMonte Coxey is going to be maybe a player to watch for the Toronto Argonauts because he had 6 catches, 131 yards in this one. Very productive by far. Well, he was the most productive receiver in the game on both sides of the field. But how did you think Chad Kelly looked in this one?
Like a serial killer.
His eyes, man. I'd be like, Don't look at me, man.
Yeah. Only thing he was missing was grinding his teeth. It would have been pretty obvious as to what happened, but like he's a terrible interview. Like I'm done with that.
He's an interesting cat. That's all.
That was awful to watch. On the field stuff though, there was not a lot of complaints. I mean, you 14 to 23 for 213. It's not a great night, but you put the ball in the end zone 3 times on the ground.
Yeah.
Like,
3 rushing touchdowns, and he's big, he's strong, he's athletic. And the big pass, he had a 59-yard reception or pass to Coxie. And just when you think the Ticats could keep up in this one, and here's the thing with the Ticats, again, it's just missed opportunities, right?
Picked off twice in the end zone.
Exactly. There was a big drive from the Ticats, 10 play, 60 yards. This is when it's only 1-0 Toronto. 5 minutes off the clock. I don't know what Bo was trying to do. If he was trying to throw the ball away, ended up
he was
getting
scrambling a little bit. I don't know if he thought the receiver was going to kind of go back into the end zone a little bit or something. And yeah, it was a terrible throw and a great athletic play by the DB to make that catch. But like, yeah, you get that. And then not that one, but it was the second pick by Amos there. Toronto comes back and scores on that ensuing drive. Like that's a 14-point swing.
Well, the first interception, Toronto scored on that too. There's the interception, then the penalties, then the touchdown Toronto, and then Toronto picks off Bo again and turns
He looked awful tonight. Awful.
He was under fire. Like last year, I think at times he was just straight up missing throws. This time, I don't think he missed a few, but he was also, Toronto was on top of him right away.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, it did appear that maybe he was missing throws that he had time to make, but well, it looked like they were gonna make a game out of this when it's 8-6. The Ticats had a rushing touchdown, which is completely different than what we've become accustomed to with the Ticats.
Yeah, the world is on fire. Tiger Cats are scoring rushing touchdowns. I don't know what's next, but it's not going to be good.
So at that point, it was 8-6 Toronto, and then Toronto just answered back with a touchdown, 14-6, and really from there, Hamilton had zero momentum. There's like, what else do we do? You're right. After that, it's 15-6. Amos has the interception in the end zone. The Toronto has a 5-play, 80-yard drive in just over a minute, and then extends the lead there just before the half.
Then I had a nap during the third quarter.
Yeah, nothing happened in the third quarter, but that Argo defense picking right where they left off last year. The defensive line is all over the Ticats. Darius Pickett comes over from Montreal, makes an impact right away. I don't like this overreaction theater, man, but they look like the class of the East again.
Mm-hmm. They look really good. Hamilton looks like they're just something's wrong. I mean, the East it's going to be a dumpster fire, but we're going to have 2 playoff teams from there. So these are the 2 teams that it's going to be. Yep. More than likely, unless Montreal somehow beats out Hamilton. But I think the further into the season we get, I think the better Hamilton will get.
Probably, yeah.
Just with the familiarity between Bo and the receivers and stuff. But yeah, like Toronto, they looked like what they are, which is reigning Grey Cup champions. Like it wasn't even close. So like the score looks okay at half and stuff. Like you're only down, 15
22-6
or 22-6, but yeah, when you're down 15-6, you're definitely not out of it. 22-6 start with how inept it was. It started to look like it was over already.
So Bo does end up leaving the game hurt. It looks like he had ice on his quad, so we'll see if that does affect him going forward. But Chad Kelly, I don't know if you want to call it a game manager game. There were some big plays that he made, especially with his legs, but finishing drives and taking advantage of those opportunities off of turnovers.
Yep.
For a second career start, I don't think Toronto could ask for anything more, really.
Did Beatty only have the one field goal?
He did, yeah. And that's the thing, finishing drives.
Yeah.
That goes a long way without just kicking field goals from
Remember
the
when
six.
we were making fun of how bad Ryan Dinwiddie was? Now this team looks like they're going to go on another huge run.
Yeah, he's able to keep them together and keep them focused and a lot more disciplined than I think we've seen in the past. Because the Ticats, I think we were expecting them to take silly penalties, but we haven't seen them from the characters maybe we thought we would see them from, right?
Yeah, like I would have expected Lawrence to at least have 3 15-yarders by now.
Duke's been quiet. And I know the Ticats had 7 penalties, but it was for 51 yards.
Yeah,
the Argos had
not terrible.
9 for 74. And I think one thing I've noticed this season is that not every little piece of contact made is called pass interference. But I like that.
Let him play a little bit.
Yeah. But I'm not sure if the coaches are used to it yet. They're challenging things that probably got overturned in the past.
They're not getting overturned now.
Yeah.
You mentioned discipline with Hamilton. The infighting that Tim White and Tyler Ternowski on
Tim White gets nailed on a screen
that Ternowski did blow the assignment, did not block. But like that stuff you got to deal with. You can't do that out there.
At least he did. I was wondering to see if you would congratulate him later on. Ternowski did have a touchdown catch when it didn't matter anymore.
Heat of the moment. Like, yeah, you're pissed at the guy because you just got lit up. I get it. But that's part of discipline, though, too, is, okay, we'll talk about it, on the sideline or at half. Like, I didn't like that on the field.
Yeah. Matt Schultz is the one that came in late. Look at those stats, man. 13 of 14, 115 yards and a touchdown.
He was better than Bo.
He was. And I know that's the point of the game when the Argos are up by 3 scores and they're probably playing pretty vanilla at that point.
And then Hamilton runs the same play back to back.
Yeah.
For a touchdown and then a 2-point.
So, hey, they did get a score later in the game, and I think the Argos really kind of did lay off the gas a little bit here. Bo, 16 of 24, 158 yards, and 2 interceptions in the end zone. I don't know. Maybe it's the Argos.
The first one, I'd chalk it up to miscommunication, because if he's trying to throw it away, that's got to go out the back of the end zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That second one, it's double coverage. It's on the sideline. Like, that's an ill-advised throw.
Yeah. I've watched the Stampeders personally lose 2 Grey Cups to the Toronto Argonauts, so maybe that's what it is.
Still got some demons.
Yeah. And as for the Argos, last year, it took them forever to get a rushing touchdown. Well, they had 4 in this one, but last year it took them forever to get a rushing touchdown from somebody other than a quarterback. And Andrew Harris had a rushing touchdown. He only had 3 carries, 24 yards. AJ Ouellette, 13 carries for 60 yards. But the Ticats, 16 carries. They didn't have much success. There was just over 4 yards a carry. I mean, maybe that is a silver lining that they're getting the running back involved a little bit.
They're trying.
Here. But that Argo defense, said it before, they are a team to look out for this year. And maybe I underestimated Chad Kelly leading that offense, I will admit right now.
How could you underestimate somebody we haven't seen do it?
Yeah. Now, he worked on that second team offense last year in practice with DeMonte Coxey, so maybe that is the reason they've got a connection right off the bat here, and maybe that one will continue to be a connection to watch as the season goes on. Who are the fantasy leaders for week 2? I think we're going to be seeing some pretty surprising names up there.
So, full disclosure, the fantasy site didn't have the scores up.
Oh.
When you clicked on the player, like they had them up for like the first game of the week, but the rest I couldn't get right now.
Okay.
So I had to do it myself. But the stats I used are different than the stats you've said on some of these. So who knows what they're using on the website?
We're just pulling these out of our hat.
Yeah. So quarterbacks, Harris was number 1, Chad Kelly number 2, Zach Collaros number 3. So you had top 3 quarterbacks in that Friday night game. And I mean,
yeah,
Harris threw over 400 yards. Running backs, James Butler, which was surprising to me. But I mean, with the touchdown and the receiving yards, catches at a point per catch. Dedrick Mills, 15.8, Mizell at 15.5. And then for wide receivers, MLS, obviously number 1, 32.7.
Wow.
And then Dalton Schoen, 28.5. Reggie Bagleton at 20.8. Coxey at 19.1. And Sean Bain Jr. for the Riders at 18.5. So you're 5th.
Yeah, you mentioned that about James Butler. I know Duke Williams, he had 6 catches, 9 targets, 102 yards. James Butler, 7 catches, 57 yards. So he had 114 yards in offense in that game. As far as
Travis Currah, quick math guy.
Yeah, look at that. As far as I go, my fantasy, like everybody's complaining about the website, this is the best start I've had to a fantasy year in a while.
I'm not even picking a team, but I still get points.
I just had a win against Safamod. So I'm 2-0 in the CFL Podcast Fantasy League. I'm in the big CFL Fans Fight Cancer Fantasy League. 2nd overall, but I've been pretty consistent, 115 points in each week so far. I don't do that. So when am I going to come crumbling down?
Oh, soon. Very soon. So the AI has just been picking my team.
How are you doing? Oh,
I got 87 points this week. I had the RedBlacks defense. I had Tyree Adams as my starting quarterback.
I want to see if I can beat the AI Brazilian Ty team.
Oh, Dom Rhymes was actually the 2nd leading receiver.
Oh, okay.
32.6 points because he's on my roster. I had Rhymes and Schoen and a guy that didn't even play for Toronto.
As a stats guy, this must be just driving you up the wall.
I don't want to talk about it.
So we will call that the end of our week 2 recap of the 2023 CFL season. Will stats be ready to go for week 3?
Yeah, now that I have a laptop and a screen I can see, and I'm not golfing tomorrow.
We might need a live feed of Brazilian Ty's laptop on Twitter. You might be our only hope to have good stats, man.
Do you just call me Obi-Wan?
Brazilian Ty, a new hope.
I like it.
You can rate, review, and subscribe to 2 and Out on your favorite podcatcher. You can support the show on Patreon. You can like and subscribe on YouTube as well. A lot of people that have been
Has my mom given us money yet?
Has who?
My mom.
No, she hasn't.
Selfish.
Come on, it's like our allowance.
Yeah.
So we can continue to
be degenerates.
Yeah, exactly. Be degenerates. Thank you for supporting the show. We'll talk to you this upcoming week to get you ready for week 3.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.